All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to episode 3 of Adulting with Gracie and Riley. I kind of forgot what the segment was called, but I am super happy to be here. My allergies are still messing up, but it's fine. We're going to push through it. I am joined with Riley, and then we also have a special guest that is not on camera, but he will be talking as well.
What's up, y'all?
Yeah, there he is.
Yeah, here I am.
Okay, this is a kind of field that I'm not particularly experienced with. So, Riley, do you want to introduce what we will be talking about today and lead from there?
Sure, Grace. So, everybody likes money.
Yes.
Everybody likes money. What most people don't like, though, is saving money and having to manage money all the way up until, like, retirement and stuff.
Honestly, it's really difficult, and I do know that you have to set aside money to even retire.
Yeah. A lot of money. Yeah.
A lot. Which, I was kind of confused about that first, and then I realized, if you retire with no money, like, how are you going to pay for things?
Yeah.
I realized on that end.
So, there's actually, I forget what, I think it was the Today Show. They did a segment, like a year or two ago, talking about, living in a really nice, like, retirement village in Arizona. And, like, the average person in that retirement village saved up, like, $1.7 million. And that's literally what they needed to afford the housing as well as all of the other things in that area.
Do you know, like, what is the minimum you can save and still, like, live comfortably?
It depends, I guess, on what your definition of comfortably is.
Like,
It also strongly depends on where you live.
That is a good point as well.
alright. Just like an estimate.
Well, so...
Obviously not 1.7 million. I'm sure not everyone, I mean, maybe they want to, but...
Right. We'll talk about it in a minute.
Okay.
When we get into kind of...
oh, yeah, I see.
But it depends on how much money you're spending, and it depends on how much money you're taking in. The biggest problem with retirement stuff is that you lose your job, so your income, unless you have other kinds of income that you're also generating, which is possible. But it's really, really hard to not have any income, stop working at 65 flat, make no more income than what you have saved, and then make it to, the average age of death in the United States, which is like, I believe it's 78 years old now.
Really? I thought it was going up.
It's possibly higher than that now.
Yeah, I thought it was going up.
Well, I believe that's the average life expectancy.
Average
So
life expectancy.
That's not necessarily representative of when people who make it past being a child actually die.
So you're talking about somebody who might need to have income that stretches, like, assuming they do retire at 65, you're talking about people who might need to stretch income for another, people living in the triple digits. We're talking 30 or 40 years.
Yes.
They need to have a solution for more money. The first thing I wanted to talk about is that getting in all this stuff, and you said yourself, this is not your area. I have a strong feeling that it was never anybody's area. So the New York Stock Exchange opened in, like, for the first time in the 1890s. And there have just been layers added on top of all of these financial institutions, generation over generation, to the point where now it's all incredibly complicated. Or at least it seems like it is on the face of it all.
Yeah, the stock market in the United States is like an exercise in how complicated we can make something and still have it be like the fundamental factor behind why a nation is successful.
Yeah. So unfortunately, it's like it has never been trickier to decide, like, how exactly you're going to get from point A to B. As as we're talking about, I have no money in savings. How do I get enough money in savings to retire. Because the unfortunate reality is everybody's probably going to have to look at that at some point, and you don't want to be somebody who doesn't have any.
Yes.
Well, and especially now with some of the like normal social safety nets that were put in place are kind of coming to an end. I'm assuming we're going to talk about Social Security at some point.
I'm gonna talk about that. And this is actually why I wanted you on the show, so we could talk about the history a little bit.
Okay.
So I was gonna start at about World War II. So vets come home from World War II. They get all these kinds of things. GI Bill, that is stipends for housing, for college. Most of them get, in that generation as well, pension plans. So pensions are essentially just paychecks that you're given even after you stop working at a company.
Okay.
Just based off of loyalty to that company.
They used to be way more of a thing. Broadly, that's what a pension is. These particular ones you're talking about, like the military pensions, are not like a normal one, right? So they were essentially expended as salary when someone was in the military, and then prorated over your whole life.
Right.
So your salary in World War II when you were in the Army, you might not have actually been getting a paycheck.
Right.
Especially with how big the U.S. military got, and how many, like, what percentage of the population was actually in the military. Congress at that point couldn't afford to pay all those people and still prosecute the war.
Yeah.
So a lot of that got turned into benefits like the GI Bill, military pensions, funds for like people who were injured or disabled in the war.
Yeah.
A lot of that still kind of exists, particularly after Korea. They started going back to the old way of you would get a paycheck, like even in the military, like even now, if you're in the military, you get a paycheck. But the pension that is more common is, like you said, it's like you pay into it out of your pay basically in a company.
Right.
It gets taken out and then it gets put away in like some kind of account, and you get it back when you retire.
So the big thing is that the reason broadly that that pensions, at least the old versions, were done away with was because they were costing people a lot of money. So and you can actually go and look this up, but the state of Kentucky is having a really, really big problem right now, giving their state teachers, state policemen, and state firefighters, all government employees, they signed on for pension bonuses, or not bonuses, but the bonus of having a pension when they retired. And the state of Kentucky is having a lot of trouble financing all of the pensions that they have to give out to these like retiring employees.
Wow.
It's causing a lot of problems. So what people have turned to now as their kind of money making like schemes is no longer stuff that's really backed by the government and the Federal Reserve, but instead stocks. So we're talking like stock market stuff. Yeah,
a lot of it now is because you mentioned like Kentucky is having like, I believe it's what they call a liquidity crisis, where they don't have enough actual, like they have stuff that's worth money, but they don't have actual money.
Right.
Like paper currency, or not actually paper currency anymore, but like dollars in an account to give out to people. So they've been moving towards stuff like, presumably you can talk about like Roth IRAs and that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Which are backed by like the stock market and particularly like index funds.
So IRAs, and specifically like Roth IRAs. Roth was I believe he was a senator.
I believe so, yes.
So IRAs are individual retirement accounts where somebody can put money into stock markets. Pretty much every big bank has one that you can open. If you're below the income threshold, if I believe it's $100,000 annual income a year, if you're a single filer, so you're not married, or even if you are married, you can file jointly, or you can file
or separately.
Single. If you're somebody who files single and you don't make six figures, I believe all of that Roth IRA money is tax exempt.
Yeah. even if you make above the cutoff, the
Yeah.
tax is pretty low.
Okay.
And especially it's like, I believe it's tied to the federal retirement age, which is 65.
Mm-hmm.
All that money is only taxed if you take it out before you retire,
Oh.
right?
Yeah.
And then after you retire, it's completely tax-free.
Yeah. So the idea is that you invest in things like Bryan was saying, like index funds, and this is all kind of easy stuff to like. It's not easy stuff, but you just kind of Google Roth
Yeah.
IRA.
And then all of the
What-
information's there.
Right.
Yeah.
What bank do I open a Roth IRA at? What index funds do I invest in? Which ones have year over year, high returns? I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
you that.
Quick disclaimer, none of this constitutes financial or legal advice.
No.
Yes.
Like-
No.
Yeah, no.
We're not
We're just
telling you
college students.
what
Yeah.
to do. We're talking about things that exist.
We're
We're just
just
giving information.
Yeah, just to get your foot in the door. Now, what I will say is, this is just a word of caution, is just like we are not legally, good to give financial advice.
Yes.
A lot of financial advisors aren't actually qualified to give financial advice either. So this is something I didn't actually know. If you're not a fiduciary financial advisor, so that's important.
Fiduciary.
So ask if you have if you get to a place where you work and they say, "Hey, we're going to give you a financial advisor to manage your retirement accounts." Ask them if they're a fiduciary. If they're not a fiduciary, they have no legal or ethical. Ethical would be their like code of conduct.
Yes.
Not meaning that anything they do would break the law, but if they break their code of ethics, they can lose their job and stuff.
Or you can be sued.
Or if you can, if they have no legal or ethical consequences, they can't really be called a fiduciary, financial advisor.
Well, and this especially matters if you are working for like a very large company, and if they are not, like, if they don't have a fiduciary responsibility, that means they're not necessarily going to always act in your best interest.
Exactly.
Oh.
So say that I am a financial advisor, which I'm not, because we just said I'm not.
Just
I'm not.
just
A
in
hypothetical
theory,
world.
Yeah,
Hypothetically, if I were a financial advisor and I was putting risky investments in things like cryptocurrency, because that's like the new fad.
Yep.
If I was putting a ton of money into cryptocurrency and the stock market was not betting my way on it, I was losing a ton of money. Well, my personal stake and investment is at risk. I need more people to invest in this thing. I manage a bunch of other people's accounts. Where can I put their money? If you're not fiduciarily responsible for where they put it, and you're not acting in their best interest, you can wind up with situations like that. There aren't that many situations like that I know of,
It's
but
still a possibility.
the possibilities
Still
are
a
always
risk.
there.
Yes.
When they're
Especially with really big companies, they
Yeah.
have a habit of doing this, and their like in-house financial advisors expressly don't have a fiduciary responsibility for their employees.
yeah.
And then they quote unquote mismanage, or they use that money to do things for the company sort of at the expense of the employees. This happened more in the 80s.
Yeah.
Still happens a little bit today. But like Riley said, you have to ensure, if you are getting that person through your job, that they have a fiduciary responsibility to you, and they have to legally act in your best interest.
So too long didn't read on that. In brief, ask them. They are compelled to tell you.
Yeah.
Uh,
They are legally obligated to tell you if they are or are not.
and that'll solve a lot of your headache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And pro tip, if they aren't, go and get your own accountant.
Yeah, exactly. So we talked, I think, in episode 1, Grace, about like FICO score and credit scores.
Yes.
Yeah. So FICO is the Fair Isaac Corporation. They're the ones who evaluate credit scores, and they do it on a scale of 300, which is horrible.
really, really bad.
300's like
To yeah,
bad.
And they go all the way to 850, which
like,
is
excellent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Your credit worthiness and how many lenders will lend to you is super important for buying things that you cannot independently afford, like outright. So most people do not have, the $10,000-$15,000. I mean, I know people will spend more, but the $10,000-$15,000 you need on a car outright.
Yeah.
They do not have what is the average housing cost anymore? It's like $450,000.
Here in San Angelo, it's like 280, 270, but
Two-
nationally, it's north of 500. It's like north of 400.
Yeah, people do not have 280.
But what kind of bedroom, bath, like standard 2-bed, 2-bath?
Talking that, it's usually 2 beds, 2 baths.
All right.
Yeah.
Kind of just the average house in the United States is usually about 2 beds, 2 baths. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it depends where you live, because housing costs are going to go up and down
by
depending
a
on where
lot.
you live.
Yeah, of course. I'm just making sure.
But like where I used to live back in Austin, our
Oh.
our house is 45 minutes outside of downtown, and it's like a $600,000 house.
Oh, yeah.
Now.
That's why you have a lot of people who just straight up buy. In Austin, I've heard of people that go to Katy, they go to Kyle, they go to Fredericksburg, they go to New Braunfels, anywhere to get out of the city proper, because that will just drive your real estate prices. Like
housing in big cities is
tend to skyrocket.
tremendously expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So in the context of this discussion, it's why a lot of people move somewhere else when they retire.
Yeah,
because your housing costs generally plummet.
Yeah. But even if you have money saved up, there's probably other things that you're paying for. Food, electricity,
Healthcare
water,
cost,
healthcare,
yes.
car
insurance,
health
insurance.
anything. So you're probably not going to, upon retirement, you're not going to immediately spend,
yes.
$300,000, north of $300,000 in a lot of cases, on your dream home to retire in. So you would have had to have built up good credit.
Yeah.
Earlier.
Yeah.
And just the important thing to remember about that, you have to go into debt for your credit score to rise. Creditors have to see that you are in debt to them, and it has to be a manageable amount in order for you to pay it back.
Yeah, credit score is not actually a measure of how good at how financially literate you are. It's a measure of how good of debt your debt is.
Yeah.
So if let's say the credit agencies, I'm just going to roll with FICO. There are a few others, but FICO's the big one. Like if you carry a middle of the road credit card balance and you make your payments on time your entire life, you're a very good credit risk. They know you make your payments. They know you carry a little bit of debt. They know they're going to keep getting money out of you, basically.
Yeah.
And that allows you to essentially use that literal credibility to get bigger and bigger loans.
Literal credibility. That's funny.
Yeah.
But that's how you get lenders that will work with you on a home purchase or a car purchase.
And if we were having this conversation 25 years ago, we would put a little less emphasis on your credit score, but especially since 2008 and even more after COVID, banks and other financial institutions have put a lot more vetting. They're a lot more particular about who they lend money to and at what rates they lend you that money.
That's you had a question.
This is just something that I was told as a little bit of advice. I don't know if it would be helpful, but I found it helpful. I've never owned a credit card.
Really?
They scare me. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. I know I need it. To go into debt to build my credit score. I know, but
as counterintuitive as that all seems.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
But it's fine. When I was touring an apartment, the apartment manager gave us a little bit of advice because neither the person I was touring with, neither of us had experience with credit cards and going into debt like that. The only debt I had was student loans. And that was it. Right, yeah.
Well, a lot of student loans don't actually necessarily count towards a credit score sometimes.
Seriously?
They do and they don't.
It depends on the loan.
Yeah, if they're the federal government backed ones, they don't because someone's always going to get their money for that. But if they're individual loans to you from a loan agency, or like a financial institution, those will. But it also matters. What matters more is not how much it is; it's when you're going to pay them.
Yeah.
So if you've got like a small one and then you're paying it off actively in college, that's either going to help or hurt your credit score, depending on exactly how much money you owe them. But if you've got like long-term high levels of student debt, that can negatively impact your credit score.
Okay, cool. But the advice that's good to know. But the advice that she gave us was like get a credit card with like there's like student credit cards with the lowest amount, and just use that for gas and then pay it back like when it's due.
Sure, that's a great way to start.
Yeah.
And you don't get in a lot of trouble that way if you happen to spend, because I think most of those credit caps are like what, $500 or something like, maybe even less than that.
Yeah,
they're like $500 or $750. I know mine before it went up, because like the plan I was on had it going up. Mine was like $500 for a long time.
Yeah.
And then it'll slowly trickle up and up as you like pay your credit card bill and stuff.
So that won't get you in too much trouble long term because of this next thing that that I'm going to talk about, and I'm glad Bryan kind of talked about it a little bit. Interest.
Oh,
So those student loans, you have to pay those back with interest. In fact, most debts you have to pay back with interest. Credit cards, if you make late payments or minimum payments, additional payments are done with interest added. Mortgages, car payments, all of them have some kind of interest on them. Generally, you'll even see people advertise like low interest or lower. I think the average interest rate on a house right now is 7 or 8%.
It's something like that.
It's really high. That's a lot of money.
I know the federal interest rate's like 3.5% right now, like the one set by the Fed Reserve on loans from the Federal Reserve. But nationally, it goes from like 2% in some places to like 12.
Whoever those guys are, they're living the dream over there in 2% land.
2% land.
The one thing that I would also say is that if we're talking about saving money for retirement, interest works both ways. So you can open savings accounts that are high interest. So in much the same way that somebody comes to you and says, now you owe me X amount with 7% interest, you can put money into a savings account and have them generate, X amount of money generates. It usually is not 7%.
No.
Banks would never let you open a savings account that gave you.
If banks let you open a savings account with 7% interest, all of them would run out of money in like a week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there are some decent ones at 4 or 5%.
Yeah.
That can be a lot of money depending on how much you put in. Because 5% of, I don't know.
5% of like $100,000.
Yeah.
Is, I believe it's like $5,000.
That's $5,000.
Yeah.
So the more, and the best thing is most of those banks are going to be insured for loss and damages and stuff like that. So it's not nearly as risky as the stock market. And most people really, really like playing stock markets because we have this phenomenon with gambling, I think.
Oh, of course.
Where, I can make big returns. It's like, well, okay, but like also, you can win big, you can lose big, right?
Yeah, of course.
This is about as, low stakes as it can get. You are just slowly and surely building it up.
Like there technically is a risk, but it's a risk that is so small, and for it to backfire on you, so many bad things would have to happen in a row. We're talking about like interest, like on your bank account here.
Right.
Like for you to lose your interest on your bank account, the bank would basically have to go out of business. They'd have to literally run out of money and be bankrupt, right? And then you've got bigger problems because your money's in that bank, right?
Yeah.
But especially with stuff that's FDIC insured.
Exactly, yeah.
Your money someone who is not you will be on the hook for your money in that case. With the stock market, even the most cracked out, crazed, highest return investors out there have like a 55% return rate.
Yep.
Like they win 5% more than if they then they lose.
Yeah. Going back up to the top of like financial advisors, please make sure that
I found out that even if you don't, okay, what is the amount you have to make to not fill or not, like, I guess, pay taxes? Because I know
tax?
like filing taxes.
Yeah. So that's like, I believe it's full-time minimum wage. That's like the amount of money you have to make per year in order to pay income tax.
Yeah.
If you make under full-time minimum wage, which Gracie, you make under full-time minimum wage.
I'm just calculating. Because the minimum wage is $7.25.
Yeah, $7.25 an hour, 40 hours a week, 52 weeks, basically. It comes out to like 12 grand somewhere in there. It's
something.
It's like low 5 digits.
When I did it, it was $15,080. $7.25 times 40.
So like
that times 52.
I don't think any of us in this room actually make enough unless you have a second. Well, Riley, you have a second job, but I don't think you probably make enough from that to have a file.
No.
I also found out that sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. What's up?
But if you even don't make that much, you still have to fill out the form.
So that's what I was going to tell you. The unfortunate
Isn't
thing
that coming up?
The unfortunate thing about adulting is that even if you don't have to pay taxes, if you don't make enough, you have to file them anyway. Just because. Just because.
That's concerning.
Because it's the law.
Yeah, well, the IRS can bite me.
They will.
They will.
They are so persistent.
The 17th Amendment's unconstitutional, by the way.
So, tax day is Wednesday, April 15th, 2026.
That's when you have to submit them?
Yes.
Yeah.
They have to be on their way to the IRS by then. Even if you know for a fact you're probably not going to have to pay anything to them.
They want
to see that paperwork.
I also heard it's just as bad if you have to pay them than getting money back.
What do you
getting
mean?
a return, like a tax return.
Yeah.
I heard it's just as bad.
Well, like just as much of a pain?
Well,
getting your money back from them? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they're losing money.
We're not... Yeah. The IRS?
Yeah.
Well, the federal government is the IRS.
Yeah. The federal government.
Like, the way taxes are set up in America is so intentionally obtuse because the IRS knows if you need to pay them. They know if you need to pay them. They know exactly how much you need to pay them. And they know it for everyone in America who has a birth certificate. Okay? They know for a fact, but they still make you tell them.
Oh, yes.
Which, not to get on my soapbox...
Please, Brian, please.
...is bad, in my opinion.
I also heard that in some cases, the IRS won't contact you if you don't pay the taxes. One day they'll just get you.
You'll just go to prison.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, going to prison for tax evasion very rarely happens. Most of the time, they just saddle you with a bunch of debt, basically. And they like garnish your wages and take stuff out of your paychecks.
That's why
that's arguably worse, because at least in prison you have somewhere that you can live, and you have 3 square meals a day in prison.
And then you have
prison for tax evasion usually only happens to like leadership of the mob.
Hey, that's true.
Yeah, that's how they got Al Capone.
This is why this is so important to learn about. I'm going to be so honest. I did not know about any of this. My parents never told me. My family never told me until I took a financial math course. My senior year of high school.
I actually took one freshman year.
It wasn't offered to me freshman year.
Well, freshman year of my undergrad. That's actually when I started learning about most of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing that parents don't really, it's crazy that you really can go out and, I mean, you think about all the harmful things that kids away from their parents can do to themselves, right? Drunk driving, substance abuse, that kind of stuff. This is arguably worse in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're just going by like prison term, no, it's not.
But this, like, if you don't pay your tax, that will stick with you for life.
You know, a parent not properly educating their kid about finances can get them in a really tough spot later on. Is what I'm trying to say. Not trying to say that any of it's good, but
no.
It is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone that I know, not a single person has ever actually had somebody discover. Usually it's because, especially with people in our generation, you just kind of look this kind of stuff up.
Yeah.
So
you kind of just have to figure it out.
Yeah.
But me personally, I would much prefer if someone sat me down and was like, okay, this is what this is.
Yeah.
Because, like, they've lived it. And, like, of course, other people, like, on the internet have lived it, but I don't learn like that.
So most, I will say that you can find stuff out through the internet. And usually the people you want to take the advice from on the internet is the people who look like they don't really stand to gain much and do not have some kind of
motive
if they're trying to sell you something and in return they're going to tell you this super great thing.
Scam.
Yeah, probably not them.
Yeah.
If they're looking just to impart advice though, and I think generally we know what that looks like because our generation is very used to kind of how that kind of behavior looks online.
Yes.
So I think we know what a genuine actor online looks like and someone who is acting just out of self-interest. I think we know the difference between those two, and we know what those two things look like. The other thing is find a bank that you trust.
Yeah.
Pretty much any bankers, it depends on the banker, but most of them, especially in, smaller towns, stand to gain very little from nickel and diming, like a college kid, or somebody like just starting off a new career by giving them horrible advice or anything like that. If anything, usually they're trying to get people to stop doing bad things.
Well, the thing with banks is they make money by you being a good client.
Yeah.
By like you paying your bills and putting money in your account. So a lot of the really predatory stuff will either be non-bank financial institutions or it will be banks that are basically scams. And if the bank has a location in your town, it is probably not a scam.
Yeah.
Hedging my bets a little bit because some of them are and some of them are predatory.
Sure.
But especially if you're from around San Angelo or you're from one of the little towns outside of San Angelo, if the bank branch in your town, if like your parents know the guy who runs the bank or they know someone who works at the bank, that person's going to be better for talking to about this kind of thing.
And you can get meetings, with bankers like that. You can schedule appointments, which are, tell them, hey, I don't want to open anything because I'm not so sure, but, do you have, packets? Do you have information for the services and stuff?
Well, because a lot of the time, the hardest thing for them is getting people in the door.
They'd be ecstatic, I'm sure. Yeah.
Because that means you were considering opening an account or like putting more money in your account with them. Yeah. And like that, like I said, that's a lot of bankers get paid when you do that.
So I'm sure they would be happy to tell you and send you home with your own homework to do. And, we've got the power of the internet. Yeah. We've got Google.
Yeah.
We've got AI. If something about
AI,
the AI will lie to you more than the bankers.
Well, that's actually true.
I mean, it is a tool you could use.
It is. I mean, using it purely in terms of searching for stuff.
Oh, okay, yes.
So
you don't really have a choice in that now.
So
yeah, anytime you search up something, it's like AI says.
Over you.
AI
that's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
But just taking like I say. Banks usually have information packets on a lot of that stuff. Do your homework with it. Take a look over all of it, and you might be saying, well, this is kind of it's kind of silly that it's this way, right? And that's so much of all of this. I go back to the kind of needless layers of complexity I was talking about at the top. So much of this is so silly when you think about it.
Yeah.
so much of it is completely unnecessary and needlessly complicated and a lot harder than it needs to be.
It's completely absurd. Like I said earlier, the level to which the American financial system is obtuse, like intentionally complex, is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. But you really don't want to be in a situation where you don't have retirement, or you don't have a way to. I mean, whatever your motivations are, right? I know that maybe not for any of us, but maybe that kids might become like a really big part of your life that you'd like to. Kids cost a lot of money.
Kids are expensive.
Kids are expensive. So before you even think of your own well-being in retirement, the first hurdle you might have is like, I got to get this kid from birth to 18
at least,
and I have to and I have to financially support them until they're 18. And right now with economic conditions, usually you might have to financially support them a lot longer than that, because jobs are not exactly, flying off the shelf for 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
20-year-olds are not finding a lot of work. So your financial obligation as a parent might not just be up to that first 18 years. I guess it's up to the parent at that point if they'd like to continue helping, but after that...
Well, but generally, if you have a child, people tend to love their children, at least well-adjusted people do.
Boy, I sure hope so.
Yeah.
I sure hope so. People that love...
I would like to think people love their children.
I sure hope people love their children.
Generally, children are an ongoing expense for like upwards of 25 years.
At least.
Especially in this day and age.
I mean, I know... I think we talked about this in earlier episodes. I know people in their 30s whose parents still financially support them.
Honestly, all the power to them.
Yeah.
If they can.
And I think this is where America is a little weird, because we have the expectation of like moving out, and like, especially if you have like a family home, you're expected to not live there after you're like 22.
Yeah.
In a lot of other places, that's just not how that works.
No, there are like 4 or 5 generations living in this like same house in a lot of instances. Yeah.
Particularly in Europe, if you have a family house, it's kind of expected that your kids and your kids' kids are going to live there at some point, right? But in America, particularly, we have like a social expectation for you to move out.
Yeah,
and that's starting to kind of collapse a little bit. But
I think just because of the reality of, people don't have a lot of money literacy. The world is becoming very complex. Job opportunities are more sparse than they were, and yet we have more people that we have to get jobs to. You wind up with situations where, we're winding up in situations where, that kind of move out as soon as possible is not realistic. For more and more people every year.
Well, and I think some of America is starting to come around on that, particularly with stuff like health insurance. Like, you can be a dependent for health insurance until you're like 26 now.
Oh man, that
helps a lot of people out, because especially like, I don't know how old your parents are, but my parents' generation tend to have really good retirement health care, because they got in like they got their jobs usually when that was still something you could get in retirement, is really good health insurance.
Right. Yeah.
And that's thankfully covered some. That's helped a lot of people, I think. But
unfortunately, a lot of jobs anymore, because they know there is such high demand for people that just need jobs. A lot of companies don't have to offer too many perks to get people interested in work. Most people are just interested in work.
Yeah, they need money.
Period, and they need it. And so you wind up in a situation where the employer is not offering you really great health insurance, if any, because sometimes they don't have to offer you any at all. They don't have to offer you any kind of retirement planning, any kind of financial advice, anything, which means that, for you to do it, the onus has to be on you. You have to be the one to plan for your own retirement, and plan for your own future family's health and well-being.
And I think like I said, kind of in America, we don't have like a social safety net. Like, not really.
Yeah.
We have like a very limited one, but we don't really have that. So a lot of other places, and part of the reason I talk about this is because I feel like we should talk about maybe moving to another country for your retirement or just for your life. A lot of other places, if you're a citizen or if you live there long enough, you get stuff like socialized healthcare, right? Like a socialized retirement pension. Some places don't have that, obviously. Like, one of the popular places people move is Thailand. They don't have any of that. But like Europe, Canada,
right.
They'll have socialized stuff like that. That is just part of your taxes that you pay as you work and things like that. But America, we don't have that. So like Riley said, it's on you to have that for yourself. Mm-hmm. And in some ways, I guess you could say that's a good thing. But it strikes me as kind of America being behind the times.
It is a good thing in the sense that if you don't have if proportionally speaking, we get taxed less than countries that will typically offer.
Do we?
That's the rationale.
I don't think we do.
Anyway,
that's a whole separate argument.
It is.
I think the point I'm trying to make is, for your life, I think it would behoove a lot of people to strongly consider living somewhere that is not the United States of America.
It's also just low cost of living in general. Upon retirement, right? Because we talk about how you don't have income. Like a fixed, steady income coming in. So it is important to either have a fixed income that is coming in to afford living in some, really nice retirement village, or maybe consider lowering your cost of living in order to stretch what you have saved for, what could be a really, really long time. So I didn't know that about Thailand, Bryan.
I mean, they don't have... Okay, look. So Thailand, they don't necessarily have social safety nets. People move there because everything's really, really cheap.
And that's kind of what yeah. Like, I know that China is pretty cheap to live.
Yeah, they do have a lot of socialized safety nets, but you got to kind of work for them if you're foreign.
Yeah.
A lot of Asia is either currently in a cost of living crisis or had one and fixed it. So places like Japan are kind of going through it with some of their cost of living stuff, particularly in the big cities.
Yeah.
China, despite what you may read on the news, their economy is not going to collapse any day now.
No.
And their economy is still a little more centrally planned than the U.S., so but like Southeast Asia, like the Malay Peninsula, so that's Vietnam, Cambodia,
right.
Thailand,
yeah,
those kind of places, are broadly a little less industrialized than China. Their economies are a little further behind than China's, so they don't have the same degree of development economically that the Chinese do, or even the Japanese or Koreans do. But everything there is ridiculously cheap because they're super close to China. So all their manufactured goods don't have shipping cost, basically.
Right.
Or they have very low shipping cost. A lot of the food they eat is locally grown or caught or sourced. And the housing is kind of cheap because some of these places, a lot of people live there, yeah, but the population density in the cities is really high. So you go out in the country where no one really wants to live because it sucks. The land's pretty cheap.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So when you're talking about wanting to retire, you have this conflict between do I want to live somewhere very high cost of living that is potentially very developmentally awesome and has all of this great infrastructure and stuff, or in the case of like ASU and stuff, it's in the middle of San Angelo.
Yeah.
San Angelo is pretty decent developmentally, but it's like nothing compared to either side of the coastal United States.
We're like a large town. We're not approaching what I would call like a city from like a geography perspective, right? So we don't have nearly the degree of big city price inflation.
Right.
That places like Austin or Houston will have just in Texas.
I will say that if you think about when somebody needs a light, I don't know if anybody's experienced this, but if you need a life-saving surgery done that's really complicated and that not a lot of people do on a regular basis, everybody here is going to go somewhere else because no one here knows how to do that procedure.
Oh, there are a few. Shannon does. Okay, the hospital here, Shannon, has a few good departments that do really complicated stuff, but broadly, yes. If you need like an organ transplant, or you need a like open organ surgery, or you need something like a pacemaker put in, you're probably gonna have to go at least Austin, probably Dallas or Houston.
So
that's crazy.
So that's the benefits of a really, really high cost of living, high developmental area. But and then the trade off of a cheap cost of living area is less developmental space. Usually it means less city planning too, a little less infrastructure, so less sidewalks in the low cost of living areas.
Dog, it's America. We don't have sidewalks anyway.
Well, there are some high walkable cities.
There's like 3 of them.
All three of them. And they're all really, really expensive to live in.
It's like New York, some places in New Jersey, and like Boston. And those are like 3 of the 5 most expensive cities in the U.S.
Yeah.
So I guess you get what you pay for, but there is the reality that some people, even if they work super hard, are going to have a really hard time affording 40 years of living in a place like that with no income from an occupation of any kind. So just something to think about.
This is the kind of stuff that you should be thinking about right now, but not necessarily like losing your mind over.
Don't lose your mind.
It's definitely a thought you should have, and you should kind of keep it in the back of your head with what you want to do with your life. But that also comes down to choice of profession, because like there are some professions that still offer really good benefits. Mostly they're professions that are either dangerous, are in the public sector, or suck.
Because that's kind of what we talk about with perks.
Yeah.
So because I was saying, I was being quite general with saying that people don't want to, or people want to work but there are no jobs.
Yeah.
That's not exactly true. There are some sectors where there is a lot of jobs but there's not a lot of workers.
Yeah.
Because
it's because the jobs suck though. It's because nobody wants to actually do
like public education.
Yeah.
Sewage management.
No one really wants to do that.
Oil field construction.
Okay, to be fair to construction benefits generally don't tend to be great until you get higher up, but you would be shocked some of the oil field benefits. Like there's a reason people go do that.
Yeah.
Even though it sucks and it's dangerous and it will kill you, you get paid like $150,000 with a high school diploma. Like, there's not a lot of jobs that you can still do that with.
Yeah.
Right?
I know a lot of people from my high school, instead of going to college, they immediately went into work with the oil field.
I mean, geographically for the area, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
It does.
And particularly out west here, like, I'm from Austin. There was probably no world where I ever worked in the oil field. But if I was here in San Angelo, I mean, given the way I went in high school, there's a world where I worked in the oil field.
I mean, given that some of it is as little as a 2-hour drive away.
Well, and considering just the monetary compensation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Much less if you stick to the oil field and you kind of climb up a little bit. The, like, benefits you get, I mean, I understand it. Like, I also understand that it's dangerous. I've got a lot of family who worked in the oil field, and you know what? I've got a lot of family who are missing body parts.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Oil field has made several family members very wealthy, and it's also made them very very damaged.
I do feel like we should include, just given our geography, if you do stand to like inherit a family business, or like if you're a farmer is what I mean, and you stand to inherit a family farm, that type of financial management of managing an already established property is very different than what we're talking about.
Yes.
Right? Because I've got that on the brain for reasons that we're not going to talk about, but that kind of stuff is a different level. It's a different way of going about your life, particularly farming. But it applies to stuff like if your parents are in the oil field, or if your parents own like a construction company, or if your parents run their own business,
Mm-hmm.
and you stand to come into that,
Mhm.
that is the time when you hire an accountant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, in a lot of ways, that's actually really great. I mean, it won't be great. It won't be great because, you know, if the company's passed on to you, it means that your parents have
At least retired.
you're retired.
Let's say they retire.
But it does mean that you know, the hardest thing that you'll have to do is to hire an accountant, not to completely build the business from the ground up. Especially not with the super ridiculously complex and convoluted systems of finance and institutions that we have now.
I think what exemplifies that is the fact we are telling you to hire a person whose entire job is to manage those systems for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, you don't hire anybody but a therapist to solve your mental health problems. You get a doctor for your physical problems. You get a lawyer for your legal stuff, and you get an accountant for the money. Okay, don't think that you can do this by and go talk to a banker.
Yes.
You know, if you need a way into this kind of stuff, because you cannot just guess
No.
and have it work out. That is.
You cannot ride through the American financial system by the seat of your pants.
No, absolutely not. Please don't. Please don't try. That is my message, Grace. Would you like to leave with something?
Yeah, we're gonna wrap up. This was also another great episode.
I agree.
Thank y'all
I agree.
for
Of course.
about this. I wasn't much of a help, but I did get a lot of information.
A front row seat,
Yeah,
a
of
front row
course,
seat to
yeah.
education.
Well, really, the show is about learning.
Exactly. We're all learning.
Yep.
For the viewers, us and the viewers. Yeah. But I was gonna say another person, but it's really just us. Whoever decides to watch it. But
The secret third person who lives in between us and the viewers.
yeah. Whoever that may be. But yeah, these are a lot of great information, a lot of great notes. Thank y'all for talking about this with me.
Yeah.
And
Happy
thank
to.
y'all to the viewers for listening/watching. So I forget podcasts can just be listened to.
Maybe they're watching this one.
Hopefully.
Hopefully they are. Hopefully they are.
If not, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up. Did y'all wanna any words of wisdom more than y'all have already said today?
A lot of people don't realize what they have till they don't have it anymore.
That's a great thing. But
That's it.
Yep.
That's
great.
it.
Awesome.
Yeah, perfect.
It's over.
That's
Goodbye.
a wrap.
Well, when is the next episode going to be?
Next week.
What's it going to be over? More soon?
Oh, what's it gonna be over?
Do we have an idea yet?
That's a secret.
Okay, secret fourth episode coming
That's a
sometime.
Secret fourth episode
coming.
That presumably Grace will be running again.
Yes.
Yes.
We will pass
We're just
we
switching off.
will pass the baton back to Grace.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll talk about something or other.
Thank
Alright.
y'all for watching. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.